morning, everyone. For those of you who I haven't had an opportunity to meet, my name is Mike DeRocha. I've been with August since February. I came from the energy sector primarily. I did 22 years in the distribution business, pipe valves, fittings, instrumentation components, so this is all brand new for me. What I find really exciting about this association and this community in general is that it's so diverse and really collaborative, which is unique. We kind of have the perfect storm building right now. We've got political influences, we've got economic influences, which are all driving not just the innovation sector, but also the manufacturing sector. So we're happy to speak to you today. What I'd like to do is actually show you our corporate video, if I can.
You can't see us. You may not think of us, but we are everywhere. We provide power to everything around you. At work, at home, at play, and even on the go. We are the heartbeat that keeps you connected. For nearly 30 years, we have turned your concepts into a manufactured reality. Empowering devices that matter most to you. We are the conduit that propels innovation forward. We are your electronics manufacturing partner. We are August Electronics. Advancing the needs of today, anticipating the trends of tomorrow.
I know the audio probably wasn't the best there. Did you guys see that in Edmonton?
No, we didn't hear much.
Okay, yeah, the audio is a little bit poor here. We're just running through speakers, but it is on our corporate website, so I encourage you to just take a quick peek if you can. I guess prior to joining this industry, I had no idea that we had the capacity and the capabilities to do this here locally. And I'm not too sure how many of you have had a chance to come into August or another manufacturer to see what can be done. I guess it was about 4 years ago we went through a complete reorg and shift. We've consolidated 2 locations into 1 building. We've got a footprint of about 85,000 square feet of manufacturing. We run 4 SMT lines, including a new high-speed line. And we also integrate the box element as well. So we can do the full turnkey solution, not just the PCB boards, but we can do the full integration. So whatever it is that you're designing, innovating, coming up with, we can take that from the engineering perspective, load it in, and actually produce it. So, just real quick, it was kind of shocking to look at some of these statistics here, and I just kind of wanted to share this, just to give you a perspective of the industry itself. Obviously, we know IoT is a tremendous trajectory for growth. We're looking at over $1 trillion in under 5 years, which is phenomenal. But just to give you a little bit of closer to home, roughly today, Apple produces 350 iPhones each minute, about 500,000 a day. We've got about 8 million mobile connections worldwide, and our population is still around 7.7, maybe 7.8 billion today, so it's pretty staggering to think of the numbers themselves. But just the capability to produce, and think about where the mobile network is headed, right? Our, I guess, connection, if you will, to the cell phone world is kind of shocking today. I read that we have, I guess as a society, we look at our phones about 80 times a day, whether or not we have an email or a message. We spend roughly a quarter of our waking hours on our phone. Typically half of that is through social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, things like that. So it's pretty shocking to think how reliant we are on our devices today. But when you apply that to the business community, the opportunities are certainly expansive. We've spent a lot of time with Calgary Economic Development recently, Team Calgary, the platform. We're starting to look at numbers that are coming into Calgary and how do we position ourselves to support that. Not just from a facility perspective, but we know the future of growth is going to be fairly quick. So how do we plan for that? How do we manage that? Roughly 25% of the IoT spending is expected within the energy sector. For those of you that attended the Blockchain Week, you heard James Graham speak about the advocacy, if you will, for green tech and innovation. Canadian companies comprise 60% of that global spending. So it's pretty shocking to hear. As Canadians, we're typically a little more humble, a little more quiet about it. We don't speak to the fact of our capabilities, and I think that's something that this association, in conjunction with blockchain, reinforce that we can build and grow. When we talk about our economy here a little bit closer to home, manufacturing, I guess as a overall perspective, we employ about 100,000 people nationally, provincially. We have roughly in our house, I guess 120, 130 today, and we're looking to grow that. We're looking at about a trajectory of 77,000 new tech jobs coming up in the next year. And just in terms, like I said, of the political and economic storm that's kind of happening, we're going to get hit with it pretty hard. So $1.6 billion already contributed federally. We know the Opportunity Investment Fund through Calgary Economic Development is in works. I think we're about 22 committed today, roughly, give or take. And then at our social event, Denise is actually going to talk about other funds and grant opportunities as well. So very exciting. A little bit closer to home, if you remember in that corporate video that we showed, we purposely took out anything related to energy. The reason for that is that we always think of Alberta as energy, right? We wanted to create that diversification. We're building a new economy here, which is exciting. That said, we still rely a lot on energy, and we always will. So we talked about applications, device connections, sensors. Has anybody been to a SEGD facility or a remote battery, actually on site? Okay, good number of you, right? You know the challenges and limitations there. Any disruption in service, any terms of, I guess, disruption in process conditions or challenges, you have to send crews to site. A lot of these might be 2.5, 3 hours off into the bush somewhere. So IoT has a ton of potential, not just in asset monitoring, controlling, reporting, but preventative maintenance. Think about health and safety measures as well. I don't want to be that guy personally that walked into a gas analyzer shed and kind of walked into an unknown, if you will. Renewable energy, power sector, of course, a lot of sensoring devices. Again, preventative maintenance. You've got a lot of challenges with vibration, controls, things like that. There are a lot of applications that we can look at for IoT growth and development. Agriculture was one that was really interesting, and I'm happy that I attended the blockchain event, Wine and Cheese, in Edmonton a few months back to talk specifically about this. Think about how reliant we are today as consumers. We kind of assume that you go to your local grocery store, be that Safeway or whatever. We kind of assume that lineage of traceability exists, but without the IoT and the blockchain component, I'm now starting to question where my product actually comes from. So it's very exciting to see a 20% annual growth trajectory there. Smart ag is definitely going to be something that we need to look for. We do this with a couple of customers here today, where you can actually monitor and change product real time, look at your crop yields, look at traceability, and modify as we go. So tremendous growth sector here. Like anything, security and privacy is always going to be the biggest challenge that we have in IoT. What I really wanted to focus on today was the concept of extra spend, right? And I guess the increase, if you will, on what can be achieved. So most customers, probably us personally as well as corporately, would spend up to 22% more for a product or service that they know is secure. I think that number might actually grow, be higher as we go. Companies that work in this space and are developing within this space, obviously there's tremendous potential for growth and to piggyback devices. It's definitely something to monitor for us. An emerging trend that we're seeing in the manufacturing side is a lot of companies, both US-based and Canadian, are starting to pull product back from overseas. It's kind of a unique trend. We know that the Asian Pacific realm is obviously very competitive in terms of labor and price, high volume, high mix of products. We're starting to see I guess, a polarizing shift back to what we value, right? IP protection, legal challenges that we face, maybe could be shipping, could be freight, tighter control on the quality, for example. What we see as a local partner is that U.S. companies are trying to circumvent the tariffs as well. Not only do we have the Canadian dollar advantage, but we've also got the tariff advantage. So a lot of U.S. companies are actually phoning us saying, hey, what can you do for us? And while we have fairly strong positioning on that, again, it goes back to support that growth trajectory that we need from innovation and funding to build that tech community to support that. Just to give you an idea on some of the statistics, now keep in mind this is US-based, it's a little bit trickier to get Canadian content. I did approach our friends at Calgary Economic Development to try and get this, but US companies are seeing a record level from the FDI reported at 38% reshoring. And that's a pretty staggering number when you think of, I guess, the Trump initiative, if you will, but a lot of companies are looking at the life cycle of the product more so than the actual cost of a PCB board. They want to be able to control the flow from start to finish. If they have to adapt or change or look at quality, this is really where the advocacy grows for us. You look at the IoT product life cycle itself, and on the back end, where the contract manufacturer really can step in and help is on that managing, monitoring, update, and maintain. Just to give an example, we've dealt with an energy company since our inception, where we actually do repair and overhaul from site. So we'll decommission a well, for example. We'll take their equipment. It runs through an environmental wash. We update it, test it, integrate it, back into the field it goes. This can happen, obviously, in the IoT community as well. So there's a lot of advantages to build locally. You can literally drive 3 hours from Edmonton down to Calgary, hopefully, and do that with a partner. And if you're here locally, yeah, anytime you can walk in and actually see your product being built and integrate as you go. More of a partnership rather than just a linear transaction. With that, we're going to do something a little bit different today. Tanya's going to speak to the specifics around our facility and some of the unique features that we have.
Yeah, I thought I would walk you through how a PCB board would be manufactured and then integrated with cable harnessing into a box filled with a few demonstrations.
Just right.
Okay, so this is just a slide about what our capabilities are and kind of the cycle of life that can happen within our facility. So we can do innovative design, help you with the prototyping stage, build, manufacture, do procurement. We have QA, inspection, testing. We deliver. We box it up just like it was coming from your facility. So your end customer would actually believe that that box is coming from a warehouse that is your own. We put your packing slips and everything in it, and we send it off to your customer. And then we can also do, as Mike was mentioning, a repair and refurbishment program within our facility. So one of the key things that we believe that we are an asset to this whole industry is that we have a very intensive new product introduction department within our contract manufacturing. So what we will do is we'll end up partnering up with a company and we'll actually work through a new product design with you. We have a team that is dedicated, working with the engineers that are designing it. We're helping you with design for manufacturability, so ensuring that during the design stages that the cost stays down. We're ensuring that during the design stages that you're able to manufacture it at a volume, mass volume. So that dedicated department will do any first article inspection on product that comes in. They will also do any strategic component selection that may need to happen if the price is not anywhere near where you thought it may be during the design stage. We will work with you to design something in that's similar and give some suggestions based on the knowledge that we have. The other key part of this stage is when we're doing the prototyping, is at the end of every prototype we do a pretty condensed design for manufacturability report, which is a DFM. And in that DFM, we will go through all of the problems that we had during the build, any suggestions that can be, sometimes you can engineer some things out, sometimes you can't, but we will provide all information. Any problems we internally had manufacturing it, any problems we think that could help with the design, any problems that cost, like I said before, that we can reduce your production costs when you hit mass production. And we'll sit down and have a meeting after the build, and we'll go through every single one of those together as a team. And then we'll work on the next build. So whether it's alpha, we'll go through this. Then we'll do a beta build, we'll go through the same thing, and we'll talk about what was changed from the alpha build to the beta, and then we'll continue that until we hit mass production. So, PCB assembly at a high level, there's 3 stages where the quality is extremely important when you're manufacturing a circuit board. So we have, like Mike said, 4 lines, 1 high-speed line, 2 mid to low to mid-volume, high-mix line, and 1 dedicated MPI line. So we never have to stop production to continue on working with our partners on their MPIs. So I'll just kind of go through, this is the high-level stages of circuit board build. The board would get solder paste applied to it. It will go through a 3D inspection, and that's where it's going to actually measure how much solder paste was applied to the circuit board. Then it'll go from that to a pick-and-place machine, where it'll then place all those components. From there, it'll go through another optical inspection machine that will actually make sure that all the components are present, they're in the right position, the right part is there, you're not missing anything. Then it'll go through a reflow, and then it'll get a 3rd optical inspection done, and that is another 3D where it's actually measuring the solder fillets, and that it's meeting the IPC standard that the board is to be built to. So also we do internal cable assembly and wiring, so that's just your internal harnesses. We don't do any kind of overmolding, just mostly internal harnessing. Then we will integrate it into a box build similar to that. And then we'll do full functional tests on any circuit board, any box build, and then, like I said, we would box it up and send it to your end customers if it was coming from your own facility. And that's about it.
So I guess just to close at a super high level, when we went through our complete rebrand and our refocus, it was to kind of build that advocacy for supporting that full ecosystem. So here in Calgary, if you didn't know, and a lot of people that don't work in our space don't realize that we can do everything from the innovative concept, we can do the angel investing, we can do the funding, we can go right to design, manufacturing, and close that loop with distribution. So I kind of think of it as a little bit of an arms race because we know other provinces and other cities are competing in that space, which is very exciting for us, but I think we're positioned really well to be that beacon, I guess, the shining star, if you will. So it's very exciting to look at that. From our facility perspective, obviously we welcome tours at any time. You just need to schedule that with us. But again, we will work with you and kind of troubleshoot other concepts as well. So
the most interesting thing that we have found during all of this is that there is a lot of people in the electronics industry and manufacturing of electronics that have no idea that there is the service here within their own backyard. And for me, that was shocking because the facility is amazing, and I'm not just saying that because we work there, but it is. We put a lot of pride into developing this facility and being able to work with people and partners to supply the best that we possibly can. And it's just amazing that not very many people in Calgary even know that this kind of facility exists. That's Mike's job.
Hence the video. And actually, I am happy to hear that SAIT is here because we did enter a partnership with SAIT this year. We did develop an awards program for the electronics group so that we're trying to incentivize, I guess that next wave of students, young people getting into this space because we are going to be challenged with some of that, right? So if any of you have aptitude or I guess knowledge that want to explore that realm, obviously we expect a growth rate of this. Just get in touch with us and let us know. So, any questions, concerns, comments?
Edmonton, do you have any? Oh, okay.
Mike, you just, in terms of your capabilities and being with customers lines, I'm sure you have yes, but with some of the IoT devices being extremely small, do you have the manufacturing capabilities to produce, really, really small?
Yeah, three of our machines. Can I get you to Oh, okay. So the question was if our machines are capable of handling the small technology that the industry seems to be going towards. And the answer is yes. Our machines can place up to 0.1 or 0.05, which are really, really tiny. They're like a grain of sand almost. So,
What shifts are you running nowadays?
so we currently have 2 shifts running our PCB manufacturing on our lines and 1 shift on the production side.
Anyone on the line or in Edmonton have any questions?
We're good.
Noted. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Honestly, I have been in Calgary for almost 14 years. I discovered August, maybe less than
About a year or so.
2 or 3 years
2
ago.
or 3 years.
And I have been in this industry, having a lot of companies working in electronics and so on. But I will encourage you to go. When you have time, visit them. Just book and go have a tour. And it's a very good company to have here. I have been sending company overseas, even in Vancouver or Montreal, but I didn't know that they are here. So please, when you have time, because this is about connection, network, to know who is behind you. So it's a good add to this association and to this area.
A classic example is somebody's got an idea, want to build it. But I have no idea, don't have electronic background, or have electronic background, but I can manufacture and design. I don't have necessarily, I get the biggest concern for people like that are your experience of investing a lot of money in design and manufacturing. Never mind the marketing part of it. How does this thing work? Like, how do you help your customers? If somebody come and say, I have this idea, but I don't know how much it's gonna cost, and I don't have a lot of money to do it, how do you deal with it?
Usually by the time the customer comes to us, that idea is already at some form of a prototyping stage. And we aren't there to help design it from the ground up kind of thing. We're there to help a concept and work with the manufacturability of that design. Does that answer your question?
Would you actually know people in the community though to reference?
Yes, so when we have those questions come to us, we will then send those customers or potential partners to a design house. Who may be in this room. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about the PCB door fabrication that you're showing over? Like, I know APC, is there anybody else that like, who's here now that's building printer, multi-layer boards for you guys?
So are you talking about the assembly of the board or the actual bare
Board
PCB?
fab, yeah, board.
I don't think there's any board fabs in Calgary anymore. There was one in Crossfield a few years ago, like a while ago. I don't think there's anyone here. So we do buy our boards either in Ontario, and some we do buy offshore.
Like you had mentioned the challenges you guys face in finding people to know who you guys are and what you guys do. How did you guys go about trying to change that? Look at what we have here in Calgary, look what we can do, what services we offer.
Yeah, we did a pretty comprehensive SWOT analysis with a third-party marketing firm.
Okay.
So we really looked at how do we get our name out there. Obviously, the corporate video was part of that. We've done some community initiatives, not only with state, but we've partnered with Louise Dean, for example, where we're trying to build, I guess, a little bit more knowledge within the youth segment to understand that we are here. We are increasing our presence, obviously, within associations like this, blockchain, ISA, for example. And a lot of it's gonna have to be word of mouth. we are working with Calgary Economic Development and the Team Calgary Initiative as well to see if we can kind of accelerate that.
Right.
But, yeah, it is a challenge, and obviously we don't have enough, I guess, interest or diversity among our young people. It was kind of always, as you came up through high school, whatever, you're gonna end up in the energy sector, maybe you're gonna work on a rig, maybe another trade. To get them into tech is kind of an emerging trend, I guess, if you will. So we're trying to help stimulate that.
It took about 2 years of doing marketing research with our third party to get to where we are at the beginning of 2019 to start implementing our growth plan. But prior to that, it was 2 years. And then 1 year before that, getting a building, designing it the way that we thought that it needed to be, putting the infrastructure in to diversify and move forward. So there was like 3 to 4 years worth of work before we could hit the ground running and hire Mike and all the rest of it, because if we didn't give him the tools to do his job, then we'd be still standing where we are 4 years ago, no one knowing what August Electronics is, and we've been around for 30 years.
Yeah,
So,
41 years old, same problem, and the classic comment I've heard, usually in a good way, but you take it for both sides of what it is you're the best kept secret in town.
correct.
And you go, how do you gotta deal with that on the side of, well, we need to get out there, I mean, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the shocking thing for me, brand new to this industry, to come in and actually see the energy and the passion that people have in design and innovation, it's staggering. So when I walked into August for the first time, I thought, there's no way that this has been here 30 years and I didn't know about it. But, so in that, we also created a lot of soft marketing, and I resonate more with the end device as opposed to the circuit board. So when I think of all the industries that we participate in and the products that we build, I kind of connect that way. So we've done a lot of blogs and a lot of, I guess, I don't want to call it a soft marketing approach, but a resource guide. Things to look for in your contract manufacturer, things to look for in outsourcing, creating extra value. So those are available on the website. We brought some of that today, but feel free, we'd love to hear about other marketing ideas.
Can I ask, how much have you dealt with in the community ecosystem to support you guys in your growth?
That's a
Yeah.
good question.
Isn't it?
There-
Remember to answer it good?
Yeah. Well, and the other tricky part is that
Yeah.
obviously a lot of our customers, we have some pretty thick NDA agreements in
Yeah.
place too. So we don't necessarily promote our end customers a lot, which is tricky. We tried to soft approach that in the video itself, so we do cross into a lot of industries. If you paid attention in the video, a lot of those guys were there. We excluded energy for the first release, but that was just to make kind of an awareness that other things exist. But I would say there's probably half the association we've at least met with and done some collaborating with, or do builds for.
So my company, I don't get to say it, but my company's used August for, as long as I've been at the company, we've used August, so it's been over 12 years, 13 years. And as a small company, they've been really, really good. They're close by to go over and check first run prototypes. But we didn't really have an operations department, so they were procuring all the goods, putting it together. They told us what they take our documentation and fill in the holes. So when we were an immature company, they basically propped us up. They even go as far as, I should say this, they would actually build my product and hold it on their shelf and ship it directly to my customers because I didn't have a shipping and receiving limit. So they've always been like a really good help when we were really small, and we've continued to use them as we grow and proliferate. So they do all of our manufacturing. And I pulled them in kind of kicking and screaming into Alberta IoT because I think they can help a lot of other companies as well.
The one key that I like that August is, for sure, is we're looking for the customer that we're gonna be a partner with. We just don't want a customer, it's not necessarily about the revenue. We want a customer that we can partner with long-term, we can help you grow and you can help us grow, because I think that there's advantages on both ends, and that's the customer that we're looking for, and that's the direction that we're heading to pick and choose. Like, a lot of our customers that we currently have been with us for, like Mark said, years. And it's because of that partnership, and we want to continue having a partnership with our customers and not just a customer.
The
have you seen any of the same level of numbers you were mentioning in the US on the reshoring with your own clients here, or is that a trend you're expecting only in the future? Or is that already happening?
I would say today I probably get 4 calls or emails a week, either from local companies looking to bring work back or companies from, say, Ontario, BC, looking to do that. So, it's hard to validate like a real statistic from that so far, but yeah, it's definitely happening, right? And I think, not just because of the political ties or connections to it, but there's kind of a belief now that I see in this side that why can't we do it local, right? Why can't we support each other and kind of build that economy? Because let's face it, we all know people in the energy sector that got absolutely crushed the last 4 or 5 years. So it's kind of rebuilding, if you will, and I definitely see that trend happening for Canada.
Are most of your clients batch building with you, or do you have the ability to just do like really small runs and bigger ability?
Yeah, so our manufacturing floor is designed so that it is really diversified. We can put a job on the line, take a job off the line, put a job on the line, take a job off. There are certain areas that we have high volume, and we've set up a designated production space for the high volume because you're just building it all day long. But we are able, especially with the way that our SMT lines are set up, to be able to do high mix manufacturing.
What sort of average schedule do you have doing something like a 50 to 100 build?
So, like, let's just pretend all the components are here. Because that's one of the biggest hurdles in today's world. I would say that we'd be able to schedule it on the line within a week or so.
I guess if everybody has questions or maybe applications that you want to look at afterwards, we can talk following the meeting during the network part, or send us an email at any time. But yeah, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much. So that concludes the formal part. Now we network. So we have the room for about an hour. Please go over and have a conversation with these guys, but also get to know who's in the room. And make sure you go on the website and sign up, so that way we know who you are and what you can present. Because we need someone for next month, and we're going to welcome Edmonton now, so that way they can join in on the conversation too. Thank you very much.
So if anybody does want to network with people that are on the line, whether it's Edmonton or anybody else individually, the video will automatically switch to whoever's speaking, and I'm going to move the camera up here so you can actually look at them. The closer you are to this phone, the better. If the audio is not great if you're more than like 10 feet away from the phone. So